If your ApoB is high, the red meat debate becomes a math problem, not a religion. Because ApoB isn't a vibe. It's the count of the atherogenic particles that can enter the artery wall, and your arteries do not care what diet tribe you follow. So today we're doing no ideology nutrition, no carnivore sermons, no vegan courtroom drama, just the real trade-offs, the smartest swaps, and a plan to keep protein high while you bring ApoB down. Here's the promise: by the end, you'll know the 3 levers that move ApoB the most for most people, the common traps that keep ApoB stubbornly high, and a simple week of meals you can actually repeat. Not, eat plain lettuce and meditate. Real food, real outcomes. First, why ApoB changes everything. LDL-C tells you how much cholesterol is riding inside LDL particles. ApoB tells you how many cars are on the highway, and when LDL-C and ApoB disagree, risk often tracks the particle count more closely. That's why many lipid experts treat ApoB as a clearer, atherogenic burden marker than LDL-C alone. And it's why you can have a normal-ish LDL-C but still have particle traffic jams if ApoB is high. Now let's clear up the biggest source of confusion. Red meat is not one food. Red meat can mean lean unprocessed beef in a Mediterranean-style plate, or it can mean processed meats, or it can mean fatty cuts cooked hard and served inside a low-fiber, high-saturated fat pattern. Those are different exposures, different saturated fat loads, different additives, different long-term outcome patterns. So if you've seen 2 people cite 2 studies and both sound confident, it's often because they're talking about different versions of red meat. Let's start with the easiest win: processed meat. Bacon, sausage, hot dogs, deli meats, cured and smoked meats. This category has the most consistent, please don't make this a daily habit, signal in long-term observational data and cancer classifications. If ApoB is high, processed meat is the first demotion. Not because you're a villain for liking bacon, but because daily processed meat is like setting your retirement account to high fees. It doesn't crash you today. It just quietly taxes your future. Now the second big lever, saturated fat. For most people, saturated fat is one of the strongest dietary drivers pushing LDL and ApoB upward, while replacing some of it with unsaturated fats tends to pull those markers down. That doesn't mean fat is bad. It means the type of fat changes the particle math. And this is why 2 people can eat the same steak and get different ApoB outcomes. Genetics and baseline metabolism matter, but saturated fat is still the lever that works more often than it fails. So here's the no ideology framing. The question is not, is red meat evil? The question is, does this pattern raise or lower ApoB in this person? If ApoB is high, the goal is simply fewer atherogenic particles. What do randomized trials say? When you average short-term trials together, red meat often looks not wildly different from mixed comparison diets. But when red meat is compared with high-quality plant protein sources, plant proteins tend to look more favorable for LDL and related markers. That gives you the key rule: red meat doesn't live in a vacuum. Its effect depends on what it replaces, and what replaces it. Red meat replacing sugar and refined carbs is a different experiment than red meat replacing beans, lentils, and soy. There's another anti-tribal finding most people miss. Controlled feeding studies show that swapping beef for chicken doesn't automatically fix ApoB if the overall diet is still high in saturated fat and low in fiber. The pattern matters more than the label on the animal. And the practical middle ground is also real. In controlled Mediterranean-style patterns with lower saturated fat and higher diet quality, lean beef can fit without blowing up ApoB the way it might inside a typical Western pattern. Translation: you can often keep some red meat, especially lean, unprocessed, if you fix the surrounding math. Now we build the longevity compass playbook, the 3 levers that keep protein high and ApoB moving down. Lever 1 is lowering saturated fat where it's easiest. Lever 2 is adding soluble fiber daily. Lever 3 is strategic protein swaps that protect muscle and improve lipids. Let's talk soluble fiber, because this is the most underrated non-pharma ApoB tool. Soluble, viscous fibers bind bile acids and cholesterol in the gut, and that pushes the liver to pull more ApoB-containing particles out of the bloodstream to make new bile acids. It's not sexy, it's effective, and the data are consistent enough that soluble fiber shows measurable LDL and ApoB reductions across large compilations of randomized trials. So instead of arguing about steak on the internet, you can do something that works in your kitchen. Add a daily soluble fiber anchor, oats or barley, beans or lentils, and plenty of vegetables. If you need a simple assist, psyllium husk can be a practical tool for some people, but food first is the default. Now let's solve the 40+ fear. If I cut red meat, I'll lose muscle. You won't if you keep protein high and train. The move is not low protein. The move is same protein, different mix. Plant protein substitutions can modestly improve lipids, and they let you keep protein high while reducing saturated fat and adding fiber at the same time. That's why swapping 2 meat-based meals per week for bean or soy-scented meals can move ApoB more than people expect. Next, cooking methods. This is the part no one wants to talk about because it means your favorite char can be a problem. High-temperature cooking, heavy charring, smoke, and flare-ups can create compounds you don't want as daily exposures. So the rule is simple: cook smarter more often. Lower heat, less charring, fewer flare-ups, cut off the burnt parts. If you love grilling, great, just don't make blackened everything your personality. Now, here's your ApoB wins swap list. Demote processed meats first. Then, if you keep red meat, choose leaner unprocessed cuts more often and keep portions realistic. Swap butter-heavy cooking for olive oil more often. Keep full-fat dairy and cheeses sometimes, not every meal, if ApoB is high. And stop stacking saturated fat on top of saturated fat like it's a challenge. Add soluble fiber daily. Aim for oats or barley most mornings, legumes most days, and a fiber-forward side at dinner. If you do one thing this week, do this. Use the 2 plant protein dinners rule. Lentil chili, bean bowls, tofu stir-fry, edamame pasta with vegetables, chickpea salads, whatever fits your taste. This isn't ideology, it's particle management. And keep the protein floor high. Most adults over 40 do better with a protein-forward pattern for satiety and muscle retention, especially if they're training. You can hit your protein while still improving ApoB. You just stop getting most of it from the highest saturated fat sources. Let's make it practical with a simple week template. Breakfast: oats plus Greek yogurt and berries, or eggs with a big veggie side, or a protein smoothie with added fiber. Protein plus fiber early makes the rest of the day easier. Lunch: big salad with olive oil dressing plus lean protein, or a bean and grain bowl with fish or chicken, or leftovers built around legumes and vegetables. Notice the theme: you're building meals around fiber and protein, not around refined carbs and added fats. Dinner: fish twice per week, plant protein dinner twice per week, lean meat 1 to 2 times, and 1 flexible night. If you do steak, make it leaner, keep the portion reasonable, cook it without heavy charring, and pair it with fiber instead of fries. Now the monitoring piece, because this is where people get stuck. Give your plan 4 to 8 weeks of consistency, then retest ApoB if you and your clinician are tracking it. If ApoB is very high or you're high risk, diet may not be enough by itself, and that's not a moral failure, it's biology and risk management. And here's the final truth. If ApoB is high, the goal isn't to win the red meat debate. The goal is fewer atherogenic particles and better arterial odds for the next 30 years. Demote processed meat. Lower the saturated fat load. Add soluble fiber daily. Swap in some plant proteins without making protein low. Cook smarter. Repeat the plan you can actually live with. If this helped, hit like and subscribe, because we turn confusing health arguments into practical playbooks. Check the description for the tools and affiliate links that match today's episode, plus our Longevity Compass Amazon KDP book. And tell me in the comments, what's your one swap this week: processed meat demotion, daily oats, or 2 plant protein dinners?